Thank you for joining us today here on Winging It, Unscripted Conversations with the Hot Springs community, broadcasting from National Park College. The intent of this NPC podcast is to have informal conversations with different community members as a way of understanding their work in our region and highlighting their connection with the college. Welcome, everyone. I'm your host, Wade Derden, president of National Park College. Joining me today is the Bill Solleder, marketing director for Visit Hot Springs. And you know, in some, Bill's job is to make the rest of us look good. So how are you today, Bill?
I'm doing great. It's not hard to make Hot Springs look good, believe it or not.
Well, that's good to hear. I'm just going to start right out of the gates, giving you an opportunity to talk about some of the upcoming events. I mean, there's a load of things coming, and I want to make sure you have time for it all. But you know what? Before we actually get into the events, I want to know a little bit about you. I mean, how did you land in Hot Springs? Because you're not a Hot Springs native. Like so many people in this community, it's a small town in a lot of ways.
So I'm a Chicagoan, born and raised in Chicago. Left for a little while to pursue my bachelor's in radio and television at Southern Illinois University in Carbondale. Moved around a little bit, lived a short time in California, just outside of San Francisco, and another little spell in New Orleans, and then back to Chicago. But eventually I would meet a Hot Springs girl.
Oh, I see.
Her name is Shay, so it's what brought me here was really romance.
Okay.
But we were in Hot Springs on a vacation. I was here just seeing her hometown and meeting the family and whatnot. And at that point, we were trying to buy in Chicago, buy an apartment to be our first home. And so while we were here, because we were in the real estate mood, we picked up one of these little real estate guides. This is 21 years ago. Uh-huh. And I couldn't believe what I was reading, the price,
right.
the affordability of houses and, what we were looking for. So I remember seeing a house. It was 2-story, 5-bedroom, hardwood floors, high ceilings, a yard, which in Chicago, I've never really had much of a yard ever. And it's like 1930s, like English Tudor type house. And I said, Shay, let's go look at houses on vacation one day. It'll be fun.
Uh-huh.
It'll be fun. So we called a realtor, and the first house I looked at that day is the house I live in today.
Wow. That's so wild.
You can say I came here on vacation and I never left. And now it's my job
I was about to say.
To invite people to come and visit Hot Springs. And there's someone in the tourism industry who has a great quote, and I'm going to paraphrase, but a place where you love to visit is a place where you might love to live, and a place where you love to live is a place that you would love to work. So I sort of live by that, and I'm an example of that.
Well, that's pretty cool. I mean, and it's really interesting that you say that, because I think I saw an ad to that effect on a billboard at some point.
Yeah.
I think it was like a Visit Hot Springs ad, and then right after it was a real estate or buy a house here. Or
I think it's
like
a chamber ad. Yeah, come to play, stay or play and stay or something like that.
Yeah, that's funny. It's really interesting. You mentioned SIU in that, and my wife grew up in that area, and her parents both were SIU graduates. And so
beautiful area.
I know, it's a really neat school.
Not unlike the Ouachitas or the Ozarks.
I know.
Very similar, yeah.
Yeah, so my wife's a Southern Illinois transplant. So I also wanted to ask you about Low Key Arts, because you were a founder of that. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've founded Low Key Arts really with Shay, my wife. Her and I did it together. And when we made the move to Hot Springs, big fan of music. I love music that's not often commercially viable, sometimes hard to understand, sometimes experimental, thoughtful, passionate music. And all of that I loved and I had in Chicago didn't exist in Hot Springs. It just wasn't here. There's a very strong blues community and jazz community at the time. Really, we just decided to book a show.
Oh, I see.
And we have lots of friends in the industry, and around March back then, whatever year that was, 2003 maybe, or 2006, I forget, we had friends going to South by Southwest in Austin, Texas. So for those who don't know South by Southwest, it's one of the most important music industry events that's since grown to film and tech events as well. But everybody goes to South by Southwest.
Right.
So I know as a former musician that traveled that because so many bands are traveling to and from Austin, usually in vans or cars, it's hard to find a place to play on the way down to pay for gas or whatnot. So I knew this, and so I was like, I'm just going to create a place on the way down for a lot of these artists, especially from Chicago. And literally I had booked that first day in a day. It was done. And then I was like, I'll keep going. And really by the end of a couple of weeks, I had booked what turned into maybe a 5 or 7 day festival.
Oh my goodness.
We called it a festival, a boutique small venue festival called the Valley of the Vapors Independent Music Festival. We then created Low Key Arts as the nonprofit that the Valley of the Vapors, or VOV as it's come to be known, falls under that umbrella. So yeah, we started it and led that charge for a long time. I was the executive director and grew it to include the Hot Water Hills Music and Arts Festival, which no longer exists, Arkansas Shorts, which is now the Persistence of Vision Film Festival, the Inception to Projection filmmaking program I started. And right before I left to go work with Visit Hot Springs, I led the capital campaign for KUHS, the 102.5, the community solar-powered radio station in town. So it was a lot. It was kind of hard to leave, but exciting to leave. But I'm so proud of the board of Low Key Arts and the volunteers and the staff and the people that continue to support it. It lives on.
It does.
And now I don't have to work. I just go and enjoy it all. It's really nice.
You know, when I moved here in 2011, VOV, I think, was like the first real Hot Springs experience I had. I can't remember who all was playing, but I remember having a great time. And
it was
took my
in
kids.
A little venue.
Yeah. That was and then it became a sort of an outdoor thing at Whittington, or was that
Cedar Glades?
Yeah. Okay. I can't remember.
Glades. Now it's moving to Whittington Place, the old art church on Whittington. It'll be there this year. They're just announcing right now. So yeah, good times.
Yeah, a lot of fun there. Well, as someone who's I've played music before. I know how those little gigs are. You just got to have gas. I get it. Yeah. So.
We had so many artists came through. We ended up really going after international bands that were in the United States and were looking for anywhere to play. And I have a great memory of a band from South Africa that came. They're called Tidal Waves. They were actually Ziggy Marley's backing band.
Oh, wow.
So we were really thrilled. We were going to have a reggae night, true reggae. You know, they were also doing South by Southwest. And they pulled up in like a 1982 four-door Mercedes sedan that was just beat up to all. It was really, it was a hard-looking car. And I was like, I can't believe you're touring the United States in this little car.
Right.
And they played, and it was really memorable. But I remember them leaving, and they like packed in like 6 guys in this little Mercedes-Benz and all their gear into the trunk and wherever they could fit it. And it was a stick, and they had to push the car and pop the clutch to get it to go. And I can remember them just going down the street in their Mercedes. And I was like, wow, that's the coolest thing. Yeah, so many stories like that, and memorable performances through all the Low Key Arts years.
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever been in like the alt country sort of Americana scene, but there is an artist, Gillian Welch, and her partner, Dave Rawlings. I love them. I mean, she's a great songwriter. They started out in the Boston area, and I lived in Boston for a while. And I saw them in Somerville, Massachusetts in a little theater and got to visit with them. And then when it was over, they loaded all their stuff in like a Ford Escort and took off. They were on the road, they were getting ready to go out on the road. And then before I knew it, they had this great record.
And now Gillian Welch is doing so well.
I know, she's had her own studio.
I love those stories. And the Valley of the Vapors was about that. And there's so many bands that came and played these small venues, and enough so where you could reach out and touch them, or their sweat would get on you. It's very special. There was a band called Oberhofer who played one day, and then I guess while they're on tour, they got asked to play Letterman. So it was their big break. So they played the little venue at Low Key Arts, and then they were going to the airport to drive and go be on Letterman the next day.
So cool.
So many people tell me, I saw that band. And now they've gone to do these great things. Yeah.
That's a lot of fun. Okay, let me get back to your current day job. So I was looking at the events calendar on the Visit Hot Springs website, and there's just so much coming up. Of course, I mean, it's spring, but what are you most excited about this spring?
Well, let's put the last piece of the puzzle in here.
Okay, yes, please.
So I'm at Low Key Arts, literally like sweeping the floor or adjusting some stage lights or something. It was kind of a one-man show, and I get a call from Steve Arison. Who's the CEO of Visit Hot Springs. Very influential, has done some amazing things for Hot Springs. We're so lucky to have him in our town. I had done a little bit of work with him where Visit Hot Springs would support the Valley of the Vapors or Arkansas Shorts and give us a little support for those things. So we'd come to know each other over the years, and he called me one day, and out of the blue, I was like, what? Steve Harrison's calling me on my phone? And he said, hey, I'm going to have an opening. Would you be interested? I was like, put me on top of the list.
Yeah.
And he said, well, it's going to be a few months, so, I'll be in touch. Great. He called me back a week later and offered me a job. And I just immediately jumped on it and took
of course.
it. So at that time, I became the special events coordinator for Visit Hot Springs and in charge of things like the SpaCon Pop Culture and Comic Convention and the running of the tubs and St. Patrick's Day Parade. And then I would eventually move up to director of marketing. Actually, we created a marketing department that I was able to create. It didn't exist there before. All the marketing and advertising was done out of house, by CJRW. But yes, there are tons of events, and that's a huge part of what my staff does. Alexis Hampo, who's a real young superstar, is now the special events coordinator. So she's very busy right now working on the first ever 22nd annual World's Shortest St. Patrick's Day Parade, which is on March 17th. So that's a big one happening right now. That's happening. Grand Funk Railroad, plays right before. We always have a concert right before the parade. So, we're working on logistics and travel and security for celebrities like Flavor Flav and Valerie Bertinelli and the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders, which is a thing every single year. Talking about the hard things that they're not fun stuff. Security. The last 2 days we've been meeting with Hot Springs PD and talk about security and just make sure that when you put 30,000 people in one tight little spot that everyone's safe. So those are things that we pay a lot of attention to. They're not really the sexy part of it, but they're really important. And I think if someone feels safe or if nothing goes wrong, nobody notices. And it's always a fun event. So there's that happening right now. The St. Patrick's Day Parade's happening. We do a lot of support for other community events like the Valley of the Vapors, Hot Springs Documentary Film Festival, the Big Steam Blues Festival. We created out of the pandemic the Bridge Street Live Entertainment District. And so now Bridge Street Live has become a real favorite. It's really interesting. It's a favorite for locals. It's something to do every Thursday in June, but it's also an unexpected treat for the visitor, the tourist, who are in town and they're like, oh, I'm at like a local block party. And,
exactly.
And then there's another piece to it. The people that are at a convention at the Hot Springs Convention Center. So they're always looking for something to do after a long day of seminars. And they have to walk right through the district and get to enjoy that. So you put them all together. And so Bridge Street Live is something that we produce and has become a true hit. Enough so that we'll continue it to be every Thursday in October as well. So we're doing every Thursday in June, every Thursday in October.
Oh, that's cool.
We're working on SpaCon, which is in later in September. That's already happening. Guest announcements start this Sunday. And then, many people think of Visit Hot Springs as that organization that puts on events all the time. And we do.
Yeah.
But we also manage the convention center. It's the state's largest convention center. It stays very, very busy.
Yes, it does.
That sales team not only sells the convention center space, but because we're so busy and sold out a lot, people who want an event, we don't have any space for them. So we help sell to Oak Lawn or Arlington or Hotel Hot Springs or the Embassy or anywhere that we can host an event. Because really our main goal is to get people to Hot Springs.
That's
it
right.
doesn't really matter where, just to Hot Springs. So we manage the convention center. We own and operate Majestic Park baseball fields, which has been a lot of fun for us. Another great one where we're having traveling teams come through to play baseball for 3-5-day tournaments. And, a baseball team sometimes comprised of 20 people, plus their parents who are staying for that long. And it's a tremendous impact on the economy. Also, we've given back to include the youth league. So when the boys club ceased to operate, there was no option of people had to go out to the Optimist Club or to Benton or Bryant or something. So we've opened that back out. So the youth league has become a tremendous success for us, and registration is sky high. So keeping up with that is great. And then, of course, keeping up with our baseball history, which is a fascinating history. If you know anything about Hot Springs baseball, it's great. So we're operating the Convention Center, Majestic Park, the Northwoods Trails mountain bike system, which is something that I love. I practically live out there. And then the visitor center downtown. So, and that's all in addition to our main mission is to advertise and promote the city of Hot Springs as a tourist destination, which is now my job. Right. So I spend most of my time marketing the city to get people to come.
The website's fantastic.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've been on it before, but sort of prepping for talking with you and just digging into it, it's like, I love the movement in it and how it's displayed and such. I mean, we just redid our website here at the campus too, and so there's sort of a similar feel in some ways, and so I like that interactive
Yeah, when we were
nature of
building
it.
our site, we actually had reached out to some national park staff to come and test it for us, just to go through it and get their feedback of what would work. So it's been great. We're seeing like about 1.5 million unique visitors a year to that website. If you don't know what's happening in town, there's a good chance that we have it listed on hotsprings.org. So I think it's a tool for everybody to know events-wise what's happening. But it's also for other listings for hotels, restaurants, attractions, things to do. It's a great resource.
For sure. So what's your favorite annual Hot Springs event each year? Is it the parade or?
The parade is great. It's not my favorite.
Okay, what is it? What's your
But
favorite?
it is great. I really think that the World Championship running of the tubs is one of the funnest, most unique events that we could possibly do. And it's perfect for Hot Springs. I mean, you have costume teams pushing bathtubs on wheels down
Yep.
historic Bathhouse Row. It's
Yep.
just, it's great. It's truly unique. There's been a few other bathtub races that have popped up here and there, but they don't have the longevity or really like the structure that ours has. And I just think that it's just such a fun event for everybody. And I love the tourist that comes across that event and they don't know it's happening. They just happen to be in town and like, what is happening right now? I think that I just love that event. There's another part of it too. It starts at 9 a.m. It's done by 11. It's just this really like high impact fun event that doesn't last all that long.
Yeah.
It's a good one. St. Patty's Day Parade is really great. Baseball weekend, which has been great just to sit down and listen to Hall of Famers like Johnny Bench or Goose Gossage tell stories. Is really pretty great too. I love that one. I'm a big fan of the Hot Springs Documentary Film Festival, which we don't produce, but I do love that. I participated in the Good Run Mountain Bike Festival numerous times as a racer. So I love them all. I just love that we just continue to like, whether it's Visit Hot Springs, the City of Hot Springs, the Chamber of the Downtown Association, just so many people are just continuing to like put on events. And I think it's so great. And I have to like give a shout out to all the volunteers. Hot Springs is a town that is seemingly run by volunteers.
I know there's a lot of that.
Right down to the mayor.
I know.
I
know.
It's really great. And it's just all these people who love their city and want to be involved and do cool stuff.
People do love the city, there's for sure. I've challenged our team, by the way, to maybe have a bathtub this year. We've got to have a bathtub. I was just like, we got to run a tub down that street.
Well, if you run a tub, I'm going to like talk to Champion College and see if they'll run against you.
So I heard that another local college last year ran a tub, and I'm like, that's just not going to, no way, not in my town. we're gonna run a tub.
Well, you should do it, and you can always, if you don't build the tub, which is the hard part, you have a whole programs here where they could build a really great tub.
They're on it.
If you're a nonprofit and you don't have the wherewithal how to engineer a tub on wheels, you can join the stock tub division as long as you represent a nonprofit, and we'll provide a tub for you. It's just kind of like rickety like little tub, but it works. It does work. So we've had like the Spa Pacers have been in that, and Oak Lawn Chapel, they had a church was in that one as a stock tub division. So that's a fun one. Do it. I want to see.
Wow.
I want to see National Park College.
I told him, I said, I'll wear my regalia and y'all can push me down the middle of the street, but I think I might be over the weight limit. The tub's going to be heavy enough. They probably don't want to push me down it.
There was a time when running the tubs included water balloons. We don't anymore.
I was wondering about that. It's water guns now.
Yeah. It's just water guns now. But the water balloons, as fun as it was to throw them, it was no fun to get hit by one.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah.
And environmentally, there was a wake-up call for us because the last time we had water balloons, there was a photograph someone took of Central Avenue, which was completely sopping wet. So it was like kind of like shining. And there were all these little plastic, multicolored bright spots all over the street. And it was really beautiful to look at. But Laura Miller, the superintendent of the national park, was like, yeah, that's nice. It's a nice picture, but let's think about where all that plastic or rubber is going.
Yeah.
And she really urged us to consider the environment. We said, yeah. You're right. You're absolutely right. So we phased out the water balloon a few years ago.
Well, that's good to know. So I guess a related question is, what do you love most about your job?
You're not going to believe it when I say this. So I've been there, it'll be 9 years this summer, and there hasn't been a single day where I've not wanted to go.
Yeah, that's always good.
There hasn't been a single day when I've got up from work and been like, because it's fun and it's challenging. I have to note that Mr. Arison has really allowed me to just go. I think he's trusted me to just go, do a good job, make sure it happens. I built a team. I think they enjoy being there. We believe, all departments at Visit Hot Springs believe that we're the best and we want to stay the best. And we have a good time, but keep a higher level of professionalism in the way we present ourselves. I think that's smart. It's a cool organization. Sometimes the City of Hot Springs calls us the fun side of the street because, the City of Hot Springs, they're dealing with potholes and the homeless and whatnot. And we're just trying to get people to come and have a great time, know. So I love that I have been given go, just go do a good job, think of new innovative ways to tell our story to people. I have, the funding to be able to do that, to be creative, also to dig in and challenge the numbers. A lot of my job is data now. I'm just looking at analytics and digging in, trying to understand a very fast-paced industry. tech and how we track visitors and what they do and what the economic impact is and all that. That's been my new, doesn't sound exciting, but it is.
Well, no, I mean, we collect a ton of data on our marketing efforts too. You know, it's amazing to see how many people just come across our branding out there across the country. And, you know, I saw a report today that our recruiting director provided of just all the high schools that they visited this year compared to where they were, 5 years ago even.
Yeah.
And part of the reason they're getting invited into those spaces is because our marketing outreach, we're not just hitting Garland County anymore. We're hitting every county.
Sure.
And, social media and such.
The digital landscape, since when I started, it's flipped over. We were doing, out of home or billboards, print and television, and it's just completely flipped over where we're doing almost 90% digital, at this point.
That's how we are as well.
Yeah, we're probably doing more print than most people do. We're not doing a lot, but a little bit. So
my favorite, people always, I never see any of your stuff. I'm like, well, you're not in our demographic because that digital media is so targeted. I'm like, you're not 18 and graduating from high school. You're not going to see what we've got. So it's kind of funny.
We get that all the time. I never see your ads. Well, why would I advertise to Hot Springs? You mentioned social media, though. That's changed everything. We'll be putting ads on the Visit Hot Springs pages. If it's in the feed, it's available to everyone that's following us, and that includes, quite a few local residents. So I think for the first time, the resident sentiment, as we call it, has changed where they're actually seeing what we're doing and they can share it and they can appreciate it.
That's right. You can create a group of people to get your message out for you in a way.
Yeah.
Especially, like you say, people love Hot Springs, I think. And so they want to promote it. They want people to come here.
You mentioned my favorite thing. So I've been given the ability to be really creative and think of new ways to tell a story. And a few years ago, I was like, when people are traveling, they want to know where they're going to stay, where they're going to eat, and what they're going to do. So we created 3 different video series. And I loved, choosing the places, writing the scripts, trying to be creative with them. And those were, they were Checking In, which featured a hotel or an Airbnb. They were Feast Mode, which featured a signature dish at a restaurant. And Check It Out, which is our host going around, check out Garvin Gardens or check out the Greenway or whatever it might be. And I love those. But the most recent one we did, and I think has been one of my favorite, it's called History Lives. History Lives in Hot Springs. And it's a local piano player and storyteller, Chuck Dodson, who sits down and he plays piano and tells a story about, Bojangles or Al Capone or the Vapors nightclub. And we do it in like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, but he's got a great delivery, a great way to make it fun, and his inflection goes up and down. He can be happy and then sad in the next sentence and then tell a little story while playing piano or even guitar. He's done a couple on guitar, and that's been really fun. So I would say my favorite part of the job is being creative.
Yeah, well, that's cool. So let's talk about Northwoods. What's going on out there?
So for those who don't know, Northwoods Trails, pre-9/11, was a place where people used to hike and mountain bike, up there. I think they just called it the Reservoir or something. And then, I guess about 2018, somewhere in there, the city and Visit Hot Springs started to talk about opening that area up again for mountain biking. And it's when Bentonville in the state of Arkansas was really like, we're going to talk about mountain biking. So we decided to get on board. Cedar Glades, which is now technically part of Northwoods, had the trails. But before that, before 9/11, there were trails there, and there was a mountain bike race there, and it was shut down to protect the water from a potential possible terrorist attack. We were all really worried about where things were going at that time. So when it opened up, I forget how many miles. It's almost 32 miles of trails now. And it's only 5 minutes from downtown Hot Springs. Yeah. It's literally 5 minutes from downtown Hot Springs. And when you're out there, you feel completely remote. You feel like you're in the wilderness. Right. Personally, I live uptown. I love to mountain bike, and I can just push out my door and jump on the Pullman trailhead on a bike in 5 minutes. I'm just right there. So I become hooked on it. It's my place to go after a long day where I just need to just get away and reset, reflect. I just love being out there. But one of the most important things I want people to know now is the Northwoods Trails are not just for mountain bikers. There are mountain bike-owned trails there, but it's a great place to hike. It's gorgeous. If you're a trail runner, it's a great place for trail running. And hopefully soon, there are 3 lakes there, Lake Bethel, Lake Dillon, Lake Sanderson. So there's a lot of talk now about opening the lakes. And it's still in the planning phases and making sure we can do it safely, how to access the lakes and make it available to non-motorized boating and to fishing. Right now, you cannot do any of those things. So it is a discussion that's happening right now. It's something that we would like to get done in 2025 or 2026. We may hit a hurdle that we can't cross and it doesn't happen, but I'm confident saying that I think a lot of people want it to happen and it could happen. And if that opens up to, say, kayaks or canoes or paddle boards, it will be an amazing experience for everybody.
Well, as someone who's a kayak fisherman, if you just need a test subject to get out there and test it out, I volunteer.
So I've heard that because the fishing has been cut off,
right,
for decades, really, that they're saying there's probably some big monsters out there too.
I'm just saying, if you need a volunteer one weekend, I'm there.
Well, we might need some marketing for that.
Yeah, I'll dress it up.
But I encourage everyone to go out there. Northwoodstrails.com has all the maps out there. The trails are very well marked. It's easy to navigate. If I'm not biking out there, I'm taking my dog out there for a hike. It's a beautiful, beautiful hike. I'm going to have to say I think it's even more scenic and fulfilling than even the national park trails.
Uh-oh.
I know. Sorry, everybody. And I think it's because of the access of the water. You've got 3 lakes that you can walk around. I mean, Gulf of Gorge is gorgeous, no doubt about it. And the vistas at Balance Rock and Goat Rock are really pretty fantastic. We don't have those, but we do have some nice trails.
Yeah, well, that's great. So what's one thing that people don't know about Hot Springs that they should know?
I'm going to tie this into it. I have a great relationship with National Park College. I've worked with Jennifer Seward and the digital design program here to bring interns into Visit Hot Springs. I'm now on my 3rd intern. We've had great luck with them. I love the partnership. But one thing I've learned, and of course it's not just for National Park students, this stretches far and beyond, is that during an interview, which I try to make fun and just try to let's take it easy. It's not going to be that serious. I'll do like a speed round and I'll ask them a thing like, how long is the St. Patrick's Day Parade? And I stump every single applicant. Anybody I've ever, even for a Visit Hot Springs paid position, they won't know that it's a 98-foot-long parade. Or they won't know, they've never heard of the running of the tubs, or they don't know that Mountain Valley Water is here. So I think to answer your question, there's so many things that people don't know, and I think that a lot of residents need to know. Right. And whether that's some sort of Hot Springs history or civics class, or just something that I can tell them. Just last week, I presented to 2 groups of Hot Springs High School. They're learning about history for a project, so I told them the baseball history, and they didn't know nothing about baseball, nor did they know who Babe Ruth or Jackie Robinson even was. So I think there's some room there. If the local resident knows more about the wonderful, rich stories of Hot Springs, and there are so many, that they become a great ambassador for the city itself.
Well, you need to have like a Jeopardy, a downtown Jeopardy or something.
I love this. We should have a Jeopardy.
Yeah. See, get some of these local residents who think they know a lot about Hot Springs and
we need a game show.
Let's have a Hot Springs game show.
So good.
Well, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask you at least one question that's kind of college related. So in your opinion, what role do you think National Park College plays here in the community?
Well, the role that I hope for someday, and I don't know what your strategic plan is or your vision is, but National Park College as a 4-year institution would be a tremendous boost for Hot Springs. I think the work that National Park has done now to have dorms and more dorms coming online and increasing the sports program has been great and really has elevated National Park College as an educational institution. I see that. The 4-year piece would be amazing for Hot Springs, to almost transform the city into a college town, or at least one section of the city of a college town, I think would be great.
There's a lot to unpack there, and we could probably do a show on that question in itself. We do have some 4-year degrees on campus. You can get an education degree on campus through a partnership with UAM. You can get a business degree on campus. You can get a bachelor's degree in nursing on campus. So that's 3 that you can get with UAM, and we're planning to add a few more. We don't have the resources to have a full-blown 4-year program, and that would take some investment from the state because they invest in 4-year universities differently than community colleges. I think the 4-year hurdle is a lot bigger than a lot of people think of, though, but there's potentially a place for that in the future. It'd probably take a lot of effort on the part of the community as well, though, to make something like that happen. But we do have some 4-year degrees here on campus, and we also have a lot of transfer degrees. It's the next best thing to having a 4-year degree here.
It's worth mentioning, like, the student body. And last year I was following the men's basketball team who won the national championship, and just listening to those athletes being introduced, and they're from all over the country, was shocking to me. And I don't think a lot of people know that people are coming in to play.
And the world now. I mean, we have 13 or 14 international students who are playing athletics, playing sports with us now.
I think that's awesome.
Well, Bill, thank you for joining me today on the Winging It podcast. I really appreciate it, and I've enjoyed
We were
our
winging
visit.
it, weren't we? This is fun.
Yeah. Anything else you want to throw in there before we wrap this up?
Get out there, see the world. That's it. Get out there, see the world. Grab some new ideas, bring them back to Hot Springs, and let's just make Hot Springs an even better place than it already is.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. And thank you to our listeners. Thank you for spending time with us today. New episodes are released monthly. And until next time, this is Dr. Wade Derden reminding you there is a place for you at National Park College.